So I'm just going to bring up a, that's not what I wanted at all. There we go. Good enough. So these are typical like character reference sheets that someone would create. So if you're working at a company and they're building characters, or they want you to build a character, typically you would get something like this that would give you an idea of what the character looks like, different views. So it's not just like from the front view, it's also the front, the side, and the back. You also see that there's different, in this case, there's different modes that this person has, and then different poses that they would also have. You may also see something like this. So you're seeing them from different views. You may also see something like this if you're doing a whole bunch of characters. Maybe they all look very similar. Or something even like this is kind of like the most simplest form of that. Okay? So if you're dealing with anything where you're actually building a character for a company, typically they're either going to give you this, or it'll be part of your job to create all these things and then build the model from that. So we're going to keep this project pretty simple. Character head. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to look at characters. Now, if we try to do something that is very human looking like this, we have to make it look very human looking in order for it to even like look good at all, right? So if the lips don't look like lips or the eyes don't look like eyes perfectly, it's not going to come off as being realistic. Okay, so what we're going to do is more of like a cartoony type of character. Okay, so if we did something like that in 3D, like we took one of these drawings and made them into 3D, that would be more efficient. Or even like something like this. And my favorite ones are just like aliens, because really aliens they look like anything, right? So like this is an alien, that's an alien, this is an alien. So this is the kind of thing you should kind of gear towards, is creating something very organic looking, something that looks humanistic, but not necessarily human, okay? Not necessarily a photorealistic version of a human, okay? So I'm going to start off with this kind of alien shape. Now, they all have very similar features, so I want all of yours to have some sort of eye, some sort of nose, and some sort of mouth. I'm not concerned with the ear. Typically, ears are very difficult to model and make them look correct if you go with something that looks like a human ear. So I'm going to start off modeling just a very basic head sculpt, okay? Now we can use reference images. So if I find a side view of an alien head, or a side view of any head, this can work pretty good. So let me see if there's any good alien pictures here. And I'm not using this as my final model. I'm just using this as a way for me to kind of set up my head, just so I have something to reference. So I'm just going to throw this picture on my desktop for now, but I'm going to go into Maya and make my new project. So I'll select that area for where my project goes. I'll call this Sarcona character, Monday, Wednesday. And then I'm going to take that image that I have here, and I'm going to put it into my folder. So just like everything else, we want to put these into our source images folder so that it always is there. And I'll just rename this head ref. There we go. So I'm going to go to my side view. It's very important that we don't do it inside perspective, because if we do, this side view will be floating in our perspective view, and we don't want that. So I'm going to jump to my side view, or my right view. I go to View, Image Plane, Import the image, and I grab that head reference. And there it is. Okay. Now, don't ask why, because I don't know the full reason. But if you work with a reference, sometimes Maya will just crash randomly. Okay. So like right now, it's fine. In 2 seconds, it may crash. So what I recommend doing is changing your renderer to the legacy default. And that typically will cause it not to crash as much, like by a large number. So I'm going to start by labeling this right away. So I save my file right off the bat. That way I can just Control S to save it. It might even be a good idea once this is done saving, because it's still fingering. There we go. to go to my preferences down here and go to my files and projects, and maybe even turn on autosave. Remember from like the first or second day of class we went through in the preferences? We can tell this to autosave every 60 minutes, every 5 minutes, every 2 minutes if we really wanted to, okay? So it may be a good idea to do that. My advice is you autosave as often as you want to redo the work. So if you autosave every 60 minutes, if it doesn't save within that 60 minutes and it crashes, you only have to do an hour's worth of work, right? If you do it every 5 minutes, obviously it's going to prompt you every 5 minutes to save, which will slow things down, but you only have to go back 5 minutes. So whatever you want to do. I'm just going to set this to, I guess, 5 minutes also, and just see what happens. Okay, so here's my side view. I can scale this up as much as I want. It doesn't matter because eventually I'm going to tweak it outside the software. When you're looking at, I have a video on Canvas that goes through step by step of everything that I'm doing here too. But I also go through the whole body. You're not doing the whole body, okay? You're stopping at kind of like the bust line because that's all we want to focus on. We don't have time in the 4 weeks to go through how to model an entire character. We're going to focus on just the head, and you'll see how much stuff we'll be able to add to just the head, okay? So you don't have to do the whole body. You just need to do the head and like right about there. So I'm going to start off with a cube, okay? Like everything we've done before, I start off with the simplest product first, and then I add detail to it, and add detail to it, and add detail to it until it's correct, okay? Now with this, we're getting into something that's called organic modeling. So our drone and our products are hard surface modeling, okay? Meaning that they're actually manufactured pieces that would be very smooth edges, like all over the place. But with this, it's not. It's blobbies, basically. So I'm going to go to vertex mode, and you'll see me go to vertex mode a lot here. And what I want to do is drag these points, and I'm marking these, to the extreme points of the head, okay? So like here, I'm dragging this to, let's say, the forehead, and trying to find a good spot. That looks pretty good. So this is like the top middle of the forehead here. This is like where this curve and that curve kind of meet. So I'm putting that there. This is the crook of the neck, or the base of the head, and then this is right under the chin, okay? So now that's my first spot. Now I need more divisions in order for this to obviously start to look like a face. So you may have seen me do this, and I may have shown you this at your station. Shift and right click while I'm in object mode will pull up this menu that has all of these keys that we would typically use. So instead of jumping up here and trying to find it, I hold down shift, right click and hold while I'm in object mode, and that brings up the tools I need. Here's insert edge loop, there's multi-cut. I'll use these obviously a lot. For something like this, I'm going to extrude only a few times. Most of our work is edge loops and multi-cut, okay? So I'm gonna go and put an edge loop here. Let's go about there in the middle. We'll do the middle of the head first. I'll go to vertices, I'll grab this, and I'm going to pull this out to about where the nose is, okay? And then I'm going to pull this back to about here. So what I've done is I've cut this box in half. So I don't have, you know, like a line right up here on the top and right down here on the bottom. I just cut it in half. If I switch to wireframe, I can see what that's looking like. It's on my screen, it's a little bit too bright. I really can't see where her forehead is, so I'm going to grab this image plane. So let me switch back to object mode. I'm going to grab the image plane, go to my attribute editor, and just take this color gain down a bit. There we go. Now I can see it a little bit easier. I can also turn my grid off, and that'll make it even easier. All right, so I'm going to add another edge loop right about here. Go to vertices. Okay, this is going to be for the brow. This will be for back here. That's good. I'm going to add another edge loop right about here. Go to vertices. This will be for the chin. This will be for right about there. Okay, you're always going to be tweaking these. So right now you can see I'm kind of creating this shell that's outlining the entire head. Now for the top of the head here, I need to add a division going vertical. So I'm going to add a division right about there. Go to vertex mode, scoot that one up. And I'm going to wrap this one going around. Okay. Now if I jump to the internet here, and we look at a side view of what the muscles look like, there's this muscle that comes right up here. It's this jugular type muscle, whatever they call it, stylomastical. It goes right up here behind the ear and like this, okay? And it actually comes from way back here and it goes right to about your clavicle, all right? So I want to get that inside there too. So I'm kind of setting this up in here. Yes, go ahead and autosave. To create that muscle, okay? So that's why I tucked this one behind the ear a bit. All right, now I've added enough divisions in just the side view. I'm gonna go to perspective view, and if we look at this, this is looking pretty boxy. If I hit 3, you can see how we're definitely getting something that's starting to look more like a head. But what's gonna happen is, as I add more and more divisions just in the side view, if I don't jump to that front view soon enough and start tweaking that, I'm gonna get this really flat surface and nothing in the front view, okay? So at some point when you're at about this level, you have to jump to the front view and start pushing and pulling points. Now I don't have a front view of what this girl looks like, but I can kind of imagine what it would look like. We have basically like a plane right here, and then it starts to curve back, okay? For our mouth, it's more of a curving back, and for our forehead, we kind of have a plane that curves back also. So I'm gonna kind of keep that in mind. That here we're gonna have a plane that's going to go straight across-ish, but it's probably not going to go all the way to the sides of the head. So if I take these two and I just scale those in, take these two and I scale those in, take these ones, and this is the chin down here, so I'm just going to grab all those, and I'm scaling those in. Now I'm not moving them in, I'm scaling them, that way that both sides go together. Otherwise I have one side's going to be off center. Just like our drone where we wanted to keep that center line perfect, I want to keep this center line perfect. All right, so that should be good there. Now I'm going to go to the back of the head. And I'm going to grab all of these and just push these in a bit. Grab this, push it in a bit. Now you'll see in this case I am just pushing them in because what I'm not doing is doing both sides. So at this point what I'm going to do is insert an edge loop. I'm going to flatten it out just by scaling this right into the center, and then I'm just going to delete all this stuff. There we go. So now I have one half of the head. Just like we did in the drone, I want to focus my attention on one half of this. And then I can start to move some of these points in. That's looking good. And now when I hit 3, I'm going to start to get something that's going to look more like a head. Bless you. All right, so I'm going to jump back to side view. I'm going to jump back to my insert edge loops. I'll put a division about here. And I'm going to take this division and go right here where this bridge of the nose is at. That one's all right there. This one's going to come out a little bit here. I also need to come into this view and pull this out a bit. Okay? So if I keep this in line, I'm going to get a flat spot on the head, and I don't want that. I want this to stay kind of curvy. So I'm going to start to pull these points out and start to round them a little bit. You can see how subtle this is. I'm just moving them very, very gently. I'll also do the same thing back here. Pull that out just a bit. Pull that out a bit. Maybe push this in a bit. There we go. Okay. So now again, we're doing the same thing. We're just adding divisions as we go. I'm not adding a bunch of divisions. I'm adding one at a time and then tweaking it. This one will be for the center of the mouth. So I'm going to go and put this one right here. This one's going to tuck again behind the ear. Okay, I'm trying to keep this flow right here. Trying to keep a nice smooth transition coming behind the head, behind this ear, and tucked in right there. And then I'll go out into this view and just kind of pull it out just slightly. Just to kind of avoid having any edges being super flat. If I hit 3 now, you'll see that I don't have anything too terrible. It's hard to see in the projector. Let's see if I can. I'm going to add a material to this just so you can see it better on the projector. Okay, so I added a blend to this just so you can kind of see some of the spots on there. Let me sharpen this up a little bit. And feel free to delete your history as often as you like on this too. There we go. Sharpen that, crisp that up. There you go. So it's not too bad. There is a line kind of like right here. It's hard to see on the projector. Okay, but you can kind of see how it's a little bit darker right there. That's because the head is actually like caved in just a little bit because I don't have enough divisions. I'll add more divisions, which will take care of that. Whoa. Now here's something fun that happens. I switch between 1 and 3 so I can see the smooth and the rough version. Sometimes it does this. It goes into like super green. Sure, let's save again. All I have to do is just reassign my material. I lied. All I have to do is reassign Lambert 1. Nope, I still lied. It's just not liking me right now. Come on, baby. All I have to do is duplicate it and delete the other one. Nope, it still doesn't like me. If I switch to viewport, all right. So I'm gonna switch to viewport. It's just acting weird. If I rebooted, it may be fine. Who knows? We'll see. So I'm gonna insert my edge loop again. Drop another edge loop in right about here. The idea is that you're kind of cutting it in half, right? So my first one I cut right in the middle, and then I cut those pieces in half. Then I'm cutting it in half this way, and I'm just tweaking all these points as I go. By the end of this, you should not have 1 trillion points inside of your shape. Okay? Now I'm kind of looking at this saying, okay, here's where the bridge of the eyebrows is. What kind of form is happening here? Do I want this to go up? Probably not. I want this to kind of stay about even right there. Okay, this is probably right here, so this is pretty flat and smooth. That should be good there. I'm going to pull this down into more of the jaw area. That should be good. This point kind of pulled up a little bit, so I'm just going to pull that back down. And again, we're keeping everything as quads. We do everything as quads. Anytime we're modeling stuff, we try to keep as many quads as we can. Probably a good time we pull the neck down. So I'm going to grab these faces here. You can see how they're automatically already set up because I put the points in the right spot. They're already lined up to where the neck would pull out. So all I have to do is extrude. This is one of my extrudes I do. And I'm just going to pull that down. Okay, now we did get faces on the inside. I'm just going to delete those. We don't need those. And then I need to just kind of tweak some of these points. So like this here, that'll come up like this. This is that sternomasta whatever joint. I'm just going to start pulling these like this. Come on. Like that. Okay, so these 2 points here are going to be pushed in. This point here will be pushed in. And that will help lay that out. This is the back muscles. These will be coming out a bit more. Okay, so you typically have these muscles that come from your base of your skull and kind of flare out into your shoulders. That's what those are. Okay, and then I hit 3 and I can see what it's looking like. Hit 1, still good. All right, so now I'm going to add another edge loop. I'm not ready for the bridge of the nose yet, I don't think. Maybe. Or the part under the lip. I guess so. We'll put that one in. I'll just tweak this. There we go. And I'm going to start to pull these down. Do you see that line is? I want to keep that lined up with the line of the mouth. If it's up here, that's not lined up with the mouth. So I want to pull that down. And you can see how I'm going to each one of these points and kind of tweaking where that point is. It's not simply a matter of just adding a bunch of points and then trying to tweak them after. It's definitely not what we want to do. We want to add them as we go and tweak them as we go. Alright, so that's looking good there. Alright, so far so good. Alright, let's see. This is the nose area here, right? So if I jump to the side view, that's where her nose is sticking out. But if I come in here to the front view, that's how big her nose is, plus the other side. So I need to push those nose pieces in more, like that. And then this is, if we jump to the side view, this is where the bridge of the nose is. So that would also be over here. And I have to keep in mind that this is going to be doubled because I only have half the model. So I have to make sure I push this stuff over. Okay, and that's the eyebrow, that's fine there. This is the mouth. I can probably push this in a bit more here. Same thing with the chin, push that in a bit more there. Okay, so now I'm going to add another division right about here. And this one you can see is kind of going to be the, not the center of the eye, this is going to be like back here. Okay, so this will be part of the cheekbone. Part of that, good. And then I'm just going to kind of pull this out a bit. Yes. See how handy that is? How many times it saved me without me needing to worry about it. Push that one in a little bit. And your goal is that you don't want to have too many divisions. Like, it's very easy to go in like this and say, I know I'm going to need a division here and here and here and here and there and like 6 here. But then look what happens when I smooth it out. You see all the lines that I'm getting on here? And those lines become very, very tricky to get off of the model. So we have to add them one at a time, tweak them one at a time. The other thing we have to do is make sure that these lines are flowing. Okay, so like this line, it comes across, it comes here, and then it goes up, and then it goes across. It doesn't do one of these numbers. That's not flowing. That's like craziness. Okay, and that usually happens if you're working in 3, trying to like force stuff to be where it needs to be. You need to work in 1 and just preview in 3. Okay, work in 1, preview it in 3. Another thing that'll help, duplicate your object, throw it on a layer. If I ever come back or I screw up or I go too far, I'll have a backup I can always go to. Alright, so that's pretty good. As far as the structure goes, I think I can probably pull this up a bit. Grab this green little plane, pull that up a bit. Pull some of these points in, just so I'm not like cluttered on top of each other. Come in a bit, probably come out a bit. Alright. Okay, so let's say that that's good enough for now. So I'm just going to duplicate it and throw in a new layer just to have it. Alright, so now I want to see what it's going to look like when I put both halves together. Sometimes as we model one half, we're not really keeping in mind how big things actually are. So we duplicate it, flip it over, and it ends up that our nose is like super stretched, or the eye area is super stretched, or whatever. So we always want to test it out. So I'm going to go to my front view. Notice where my pivot is. My pivot is in the middle of my object. It's not on the edge. I need it to be on the edge. So I hold down D to move the pivot. I hold down V to snap it to a point. I click the arrow and it snaps it right to that edge. Let go. Now I can go to mesh, and we've done this part before, mirror geometry. In the negative X, we hit mirror. Okay, so now I hit 3, and that's not bad. You really get an idea of the structure of it. This is looking more like a man's head than a woman's head. The forehead is obviously too big. It obviously needs some tweaking happening there. So maybe I'll grab these vertices and kind of pull these out a bit. Oops, that's the nose. I want that. These ones in a little bit. I'll probably grab these ones here and here. Just scale those in a bit. Maybe even pull those ones down. Okay, so this is giving me more of a softness to the scalp, to the head, as opposed to how hard it was going down there. And I'm going to grab edges in this case. And you'll see how I'm grabbing these edges as all the ones that are kind of facing the same direction. I wouldn't grab these ones up here and try to move those with the other ones. And I'm always jumping to my perspective view to grab it, because it's easier to grab. There you go. So that's looking a little bit better. Okay, I'll tweak it more once we get further in, but I think that's good for now. Alright, so what I need to do now is I need to start to add in the mouth, start to add in the eye. Okay, we're doing what's called base modeling. We're doing a very low resolution version inside Maya. Then we're going to take it into a program called ZBrush, and we're going to finish it off inside of ZBrush. Okay, so I need to get a representation of where the eye is. So I'm going to make a sphere. I'm going to scoot it up, go to the side view, rotate it. See you, Luke. I'm gonna go to my front view, scoot this over. Alright. So maybe that's a little bit too big. Let's scale it down some. Your eye is actually like a pretty big thing. It's not like, it's not that. Okay, your eye is a lot bigger. That big. Yes. Alright, there we go. So now we'll jump to the front view, and that should be good. Okay. Now we don't have a spot here. If we did have a front view, we could line up the eye exactly where it is. Your goal isn't to be perfect with it. Your goal is to get the rough structure, and then tweak things and move it around where it needs to be. So here's where the eye wants to go. So I need to add that shape in there. So what I'm going to do is grab my points here. Let me delete this half again. That way I'm, again, focusing only on one side. Oops, too much. There we go. Good. I'm going to grab this vertice again, and I'm going to pull that forward. Okay. Now I should have another vertice here that's kind of like the inside part of the eye, like where the tear duct would be. So I'm going to add another edge loop, maybe like right there. And then I can kind of push that in to where the tear duct would be. Now I can't see it, I just have to I have to eyeball it. You got it. Alright, and then we can kind of pull these points out like this. Pull that point out like that. Okay, I'm not really liking how this forehead line is coming, so I'm going to eventually rework where this division's going. I just don't like how blocky this like comes in and cuts over. I'll fix that later. Alright, so good enough for now. Oops. And I have a random face right here. Let's delete that too. Good. Okay. So now that I have this here, what I need to do is draw in where I want that eye to be. So I'm going to add a division right down the center, like right there where the center of the eyeball would be. I put in a division, so it's right here. What I'm going to do with that face is I'm going to hold down shift and right click. This brings up my vertex menu. So just like we had the other one that had insert edge loop and multi-cut, this is all the stuff I might want to do to a vertex. So I'm going to chamfer my vertex, and look what it does is it takes that one vertex and makes it into 4 vertices. So it kind of splits it up, which is pretty neat. Now I can take this and start to shape this into an eye. So if I go here and kind of pull this out to where that's hitting, that's good. Take this and pull this to where the top of the eye would be. Take this and move this to where the bottom of the eye would be. And I'm going to scoot this point over. That's my outside tear duct, and this is my inside part. There we go. Okay. So now I have just this kind of ovally shape that I need to line up. So for now, let me just take this sphere and just hide it for a second, just so you can see what I have left. Now, when I did that chamfer, it left me with, nope, this face here, and this face, and this face. All 4 of these faces have 5 vertices going around, okay, or 5 edges. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So there's 5 going around. So that's something that I need to clean up because we want to have, again, quads going all over the place. So I'll clean that up. I also have this, where this isn't really round, this is more of a square. So I'm going to go to my multi-cut, and I'm just going to cut in some lines here. So I'm going to go to like this and go to like that. Okay, and I'm going to do the same thing here. This, to this, to this, to that. Okay, so now that what that gives me is divisions in the middle that I could then tweak and really customize what this eye shape is going to look like. These guys could probably come over a little bit more. This guy can probably come over a little bit more. I don't want things squished on top of each other, so I'm always moving things around. And then with this one, I can wrap this one around the side of the head. There we go. And I'll wrap this one around the side of the head. Now this middle face of the eye is a lot of divisions, but it's not going to matter because it's going to be hidden inside the eye. Okay, so what I need to do now is just kind of clean up some of this mess. So this is going to come over this is going to come over. I'm going to control delete that one, and I'll fix where this one's going to go in a little bit. So I want these to be kind of on top of where they're at, right? So I don't want these to be just willy-nilly placed wherever. I want these to, again, flow with where they're supposed to flow. This is the area we talked about before. I'm just not liking where that is at. Yes, sure. Delete that. So I'm just deleting those vertices there just for now, because I know I want to fix that. All right, so that looks pretty good. Now I'm going to start to shape the eye out. So I'm going to go to my front view. I'm going to go to Google. And I'm going to look at pictures of eyes to get the basic shape of it. Again, this is, let's say it's an alien, let's say it's a whatever. We can always tweak it afterwards, but we still have to know the structure of how it's kind of laid out. So it starts in this corner, it comes up, goes over, and then comes around. Okay, no big deal there. So I'm going to go into this and just kind of tweak it. I'm going to bring my sphere back, because I'm using the sphere as basically this is the eyeball. So it shouldn't go into that sphere. It should just kind of stick to the side of it. Okay, like that. Like that. Okay, now even if other parts stick through there, that's fine. I'm just going to let it stick through there. Okay, this guy's a little bit too close, so let's pull him off to the side. And then we'll tweak these going that way. Okay. So now that we have this, I'm going to make that whole shape in the middle a bit bigger. Okay, so something like that. And that gives me the opportunity to kind of come through and tweak these. There we go. And now what I'm going to do is take this and just extrude it. Here's my second extrusions. Like that. So I extrude it basically like into the eyeball itself. So it's like hidden from view. And then I can go into my edge loops. Oops, back to object mode. Back to my edge loops. Click on here. And then I should get something that's pretty close to where we were before. Okay? Now watch what happens when I take this. I just kind of pull out some of these. I pull out some of those and maybe tuck these guys in a bit. Okay, now I'm going to hit 3. And you'll see how now we're getting this shape that's looking more like an eyelid itself. Okay, it's still not there yet, but it will look much better once we start playing with it a bit more. So I'm going to start pulling some of these points. Like these points can probably be a little bit closer to this. These points can probably be a little bit closer, not much. And I'm trying to get it pretty close to the same spot, like where it is on the sphere. There we go. Now I'm going to insert some more edge loops, like here. Pull that out. Pull this out. And you can see how we're getting that shape that's going to look like that eye is actually like inside of something. There we go. So now I'm going to jump to the side view and just kind of look at it and see what it's looking from the side view. I could probably pull some of these points back a bit more. I'm like really far up. Oops. Should have also grabbed this guy. Okay, then I'm just going to go through and just keep tweaking things until I get to a spot where I'm liking how that's looking. That's looking pretty good. All right. Yes. Okay, so I can continue playing with the eye here. I need to do some cleanup up here, just with these vertices and where they're located. So just tweaking where these points are at. And again, I'm not liking how it's coming up and going over, so I'm going to delete these edges here like this and just use the multi-cut to kind of draw them where I want them to go. Like this one should come up like this, go here. Come down the back. There. Good. I'll leave that one there for now. Okay. And the same thing here, I'm not really liking how this is all collapsing into this stuff. And sometimes it's easier just to kind of delete several edges and then just kind of work in what you want that to look like. So having this one go across is good there. Another resource we can use is just finding a wireframe of a face. So don't be afraid to look at other people's wireframes of their face. And again, look for a low-res one and try to look for something of what we're doing. So if you look at this one, you can see there's this round part right here where the eye is at. That's what we created for the eye. Here's where these come down for the neck. They don't do what the other one was doing, which is kind of like bunching up and cutting over, right? They were kind of coming straight down. So again, we would have these kind of come down like that. And I probably need to move over some of these so they're not just like right on top of everyone. There we go. Okay, now a quick little tool that I can use is I'm going to deselect the edge ones and just grab these. And one of these is called average vertices. Whoa. And what it does is it gradually just kind of softens the transition between all of them. So sometimes that'll help too. And sometimes it is just manually kind of moving things around until it's where you want it to be. So I can come back to that and play with it more. Alright, so now I have the mouth. I need to work this mouth shape in. So I'm going to use the multi-cut again. I'm going to click on where the top lip is going to be. And I'm just going to draw this out. So how far am I going to come? This should come like the center of your eyeball is like the corner of your mouth. So that's where I'm going to kind of look at the center of the eyeball hitting about the corner of the mouth. So probably right there I'll go. So I'm going to go right about there, drag it down, here, and there. Okay, so now that gives me the lip area. Now here's what's nice about this is that all those cuts that I just did, it left me with only 2 triangles right here, just these 2. Okay, everything else is a quad around it. And because this is the mouth, this will be inside, so we won't even see those triangles, so we don't need to worry about it too much. So now what I'm going to do is just kind of make this a little bit bigger. And maybe pull this up a little bit more over this way. There we go. Maybe tweak this shape a little bit more this way. All right, that should be good. Okay, so then I'm going to take these faces here and just extrude it and give it a little bit of offset. Something like that, and then just delete these edge ones. Okay, so when it extruded, it actually pulled it in a little bit. You can see how the mouth is no longer lined up with the edge. Hold down V, and I can snap it to be aligned. So then I can grab these faces and just push the faces into my shape. Oops. Sorry. I need to extrude one more time, or add an edge loop. There we go. So now that's extruded inward. And then I'm going to take these and this and just scale that down. I probably need to grab the next one out too. Yes. There we go. So now that gives me the lips, and then all I have to do is just use an edge loop, and then I can start to shape what they're looking like. Okay. Now, when I hit 3, you'll see that we get this big gap in here. I don't want that gap. I need more divisions right here because it's kind of smoothing it too much. So I'm just going to add another division right there. And you'll see that it holds that shape a little bit better. Okay. What I don't want to do is I don't want to take this thing and just flatten it out so much just to kind of get it there, or move the points so much that they're like overlapping crazy, because that'll cause issues later. So I'm just going to add a couple more divisions inside here. And that should get this pretty close. I may need to add some more divisions outside as well. So we'll see. Maybe not there. Maybe like right here I can add another division. Or right there, and then scale that inward. Not you two. Okay, and then we just need to kind of tweak in some of these points. This is like a big cluster of points right here. It's always going to be messy. We just have to kind of push them in a little bit and kind of tuck them away. There we go. Okay, so again, we'll take this. I'll make sure in my front view that everything on this straight line right here is perfectly lined up. An exact straight line going down the middle. If it's not, I'll grab all the points going straight down the middle. I'll hold down V and snap them in alignment. Oops, sorry, not V, X. There we go. And then I can just move it to where I need it to be. Then I'm going to move my pivot, so I hold down D and V and snap that to alignment. And then I can use my mirror geometry. X, there we go. And so there's my head, okay? Now it's still not done. This is like Angelina Jolie lips. I need to tweak that. Let's go inside. I'm just going to grab all the vertices here and just shrink this down like that and like that a bit. It's a little bit better. Okay. Now it's still kind of lumpy. You can see that the head is not like, it doesn't look anything like that girl. Okay, so we still need to tweak it. We still need to adjust stuff. So one of the tools that we can use is under Mesh Tools is Sculpting Tools. Okay, and this is a good kind of primer into what we're going to be doing inside of ZBrush. Because in ZBrush, we're going to be treating this like it's clay. So we'll be able to add things like little pits and marks and scratches and whatever else we want to do. So I'm going to go to the Smooth tool, and I click the little box so that it opens up the options. Now right now the strength is set to 100, so when I click and drag, you can see it's going crazy. It's like really jumpy. I'll go to the Sculpt tool so it's a little bit more obvious. Crank that up to 100. There you go. See, 100 is like way too strong. So this has to come down to like something small. Our size is the brush size. So right now it's at 8, too big. 0 is obviously too small. There's 1. So as I sculpt, you can see how it's pulling this out a bit. Okay. So I'm going to go and maybe make the strength, just so you can see it better, like 0.1. Let me go a little bit more, 0.25. There you go. So you can see what it's doing. It's actually just pulling the surface up. It's sculpting the surface. So I'm going to tell it that I want it to be mirrored over the X direction. So I get 2 of these. And then you can see how I can sculpt and pull some of these points out. Now if I hold down Control it will sculpt backwards, meaning that it'll push in. If I don't hold control, it pulls it outward. So like these cheeks, I should probably hold control and push those in a bit. Oops, too much. Watch the lips. I can also hold down B and left mouse button drag, and that's my brush size. So let's just do that. I can also hold shift, and that'll smooth stuff out. But I think my smooth is still set to 100. Let me lower that down. There we go. Sculpt. There we go. So some of these areas that are really lumpy, I'm just using the smooth brush on just to kind of smooth out those transitions. And I make the brush a little bit bigger. There we go. So now that's nice and smooth right there. This area here, I'll do a little bit of sculpting, just kind of pull it out, and then I can smooth that shape in. And again, you may want to save off an iteration of this before you start working on it. Oh, too big. And you can see what I was talking about, trying to get this to look very humanistic, especially in the timeline that I'm demoing this. It takes a while to get it to look actually like a human's proportions, especially without that front view to help line things up. There we go. So I'm just kind of rounding out her head, rounding out the skull. Oops, wrong program. Maybe I'll smooth the corners of the lips a little bit. There we go. All right, so that should be good enough for now, just to kind of get me started. Okay, so it's a good idea after a while to just kind of do that, just to see what it's looking like. And I still have these weird points here and this weird point there. Let me get rid of that. All right, that should be good there. Probably, nope. A multi-cut across this. There we go. So I can then take this, maybe scale it out a little bit. And I can draw this one and draw that to somewhere. So for now I'm just dragging it to this point, but I'll adjust it later. I just want to get the front of the face looking better. Okay, so now I need to take probably these out a little bit, so I'm just scaling those out. And then I look at it from different views. Look at it from the bottom, look at it from the top. Alright, so let's say that that's good enough for now. Okay, so in Maya, this is, well, I just want to go a little bit further on the bottom here, just so I don't have enough divisions down here. Right there. And I just need to connect this with the multi-cut. There to there. And then I'm going to flatten the bottom part of this. And maybe pull this forward just a touch. There we go. Okay, so with the exception of these areas up here that I could definitely clean up, let's let's see, this is a triangle here. So if I did that, then we would no longer have a triangle there. And these are triangles here. Do the same thing there. Now, it's definitely not as clean as I want it. I'll probably go back and tweak those. Just delete this. No, it's not liking that. I'll have to rework how these are set up here, just so I can minimize where that is at. So it's just reworking those points. Okay. So this is as far as you're going to take this creature or character inside of Maya. Okay. After we get to this point, then we're going to bring it into a different program and actually start to sculpt on the character. Yes, sir.
Would you add, if you wanted to add hair, would you do it here or would you do it later?
We could do it in either spot. So we can add hair inside of ZBrush, or we can add hair inside of here. Okay. Now, if we wanted to look at the proportions of what this character is looking like, this is where we could take the character right in there. But if we said, hey, we want this character to have like a really big head, or really big eyes, or really big mouth, or whatever, we can do all that stuff before we take it into the next program too. So we can grab like the eyeball and stretch this up. Oops, I grabbed part of the nose. There we go. So we can scale that up, we can rotate it. And I can give the character a big eye inside of here before I take it into the other software. Okay, so here is basically just like your rough sketch of what the character is going to look like. Okay, I can even do one little eye and one big eye if I wanted to. Might be difficult to sketch later on though. Okay, so I'm going to keep it pretty generic for this, and then I'm going to do a lot of the sculpting work outside of the program inside of ZBrush. And we'll see, not next class, but next week, I'll show how to do the ZBrush stuff. Your goal is to first get to this point where you have this base head that you can start working on. Once you have this, you can really sculpt anything. You could take this character and make it into a boy, a girl, a man, a woman, an alien, pretty much anything once you get inside the software. Some people will even start off with a sphere. I don't know why I look at sphere. Some people start looking with a sphere and sculpt a head out of a sphere. Okay, ZBrush is a very awesome tool in that it allows us to have a lot of detail inside there. So like all this is all sculpted onto the face. It's actually like drawn into the face. Those are all, like millions of vertices in order to create that crease inside the forehead. And it all started from either a sphere because the guy is, you know, that level, or it started off with a base head like the one we're creating. You can see in this case, this is Davy Jones? Yes. They started him off with a sphere and this stuff, and they sculpted all that detail on top of that to give him that look, all within ZBrush. There's Tyrion, there's a gorilla. There's lots of different stuff that you can do inside here. This is the reason we're going into it, because we can add so much levels of detail inside there. Okay? So your goal, go into Maya, create the base head. Once we have a base head, we'll take it into ZBrush, and we'll just start sculpting like crazy on it. Okay? Any questions? No? All right.